bigger and more elaborate. You would think that the quarters of the emperor would have rang with sound on the hour. Huh. And what is this? Things would have rotated behind that glass. That's where the workings of the clock are, so that you could observe it. And is this a reflection of the universe, perhaps? How clever is that? Perhaps from New Zealand, the kiwi, if that in fact is a kiwi. The duck floating on a pond. Huh. And the cloisonné vignettes at the bottom. Again, the detail, the artistry is so interesting and varied that sadly it becomes something you glance at quickly and move on because there's more of the same. And what went on behind the little glass panels, which we can't see? Perhaps from India? Is that the Komodo dragon at the bottom? India? Would the emperor have had the same feeling I get, that after a while all this stuff was just so much over the top? He must have looked for the novelty of some, those that moved, had animated parts. Did these characters dance about? Or are they the means of showing time by where the wand is? And one wonders how the Emperor of China would be intrigued by a small boy with a shovel and trowel. Even now I begin to sense redundancy. But maybe they were spread out enough amongst emperors that they intrigued all. One can hope so, because the artistic endeavors must have been tremendous for each of these pieces. So this is referred to as a night clock because apparently it specifically rang out the night watches. I assume perhaps watches for the emperor, for security or whatever. This English clock has a Chinese robot who writes out Chinese calligraphy. Now that certainly would have been intriguing. Apparently this elephant pulling this, what they call a chariot, but we'll call a carriage, with the clock, and they pulled it on a track apparently, although I don't quite see how it moved. But at any rate, apparently then different elements, including the elephant's tail, would move. So that must have been interesting. You wonder if those are jewels encrusting the wheels. But the characters appear Roman. There's some large cannon. I wonder what that suggested, or was supposed to suggest, to the emperor. On this beautiful clock, the characters at the top are immortals who are offering birthday congratulations to the emperor. This clock apparently driven by leather strings. Notice it's multiple chimes at the top. And whether the workings here were ensconced in some other structure, it doesn't say. Huh, the little trapeze artist. But this must have been a master creation by one of the clock houses of Europe. The bow was made in one of the imperial workshops as a toy for an emperor, perhaps, or a lesser. Apparently all these were made in the workshops. This is some kind of a drill, I believe. Imagine the hands that labored with that wooden handle and wore it down. Hard to see how that drill is used. Perhaps of Indian origin, I mean. Looks like India. This would certainly seem to be an animated character, perhaps capable of actually fanning the emperor were it close at hand. This is an elaborate piece. Were these things found a place in the palace or merely stuck away in case the giving country returned? Again, over the top, the clock being incredibly anticlimactic, that little icon up at the, almost at the top. But is that a gold platform that this whole thing sits on? And then a golden pheasant to boot? A pair of clocks at the back is interesting. They almost look like speakers. And I suppose, like any pot of plants, this would have been a nice decorative piece. Perhaps a timepiece beside a concubine's bed or makeup table or whatever. You wonder if the birds here are animated. For example, did that bird there dip its nose or beak in the stream? Is that a moth or a butterfly? Looks like a moth. Sometime in the 1800s, the Chinese began to try to manufacture clocks, or I should say manufacture clocks. Rather dull designs compared to the ones they'd received. But it took time, I'm sure, to develop the craft.